Kerry Garrison with 888 VoIP Store, and in this video we're going to show you how to provision Yealink IP phones with 3CX, the Windows-based IP PBX software. Now there's two different ways we can go about configuring them. We can do it using 3CX's automatic provisioning system, or we can set up the phones manually. Now today we're going to show you how to do both, just because there's some things you may want to do manually, some you want to do automatic, or you may not have a DHCP server that can do option 66, which is a requirement for the automatic provisioning. So either way, we're going to show you how to do both so that you know how. Let's get started. The first way is going to be the automatic provisioning, because it's going to be the easiest to get going with. Now to do this, we're going to need a DHCP server that can do option 66. And in that, we need to set it for a provisioning string depending on whether we're using Cassini or IIS. Then we need to configure the extension for the phone using 3CX Administrator, and we'll set it up for auto provisioning. It's very simple to do. And then the phone needs to be rebooted, and it'll come right up on the extension that we want to configure. So pretty simple way to do this. So the first thing we need to do is go to our DHCP server and set up option 66. I'm going to log into my system here. And this is going to be a Windows 2008 server with the DHCP server running on it. And we're going to go to our IPv4 settings, our scope options, and then we can see option 66 is in here. Now if it's not there, you just scroll down until you find it, and then you can add it. Now I'm using Cassini, so I need to have that port number in here as well. If I'm just using IIS, I can take that out. Now the IP address is the IP address of our 3CX system. So again, I'm using Cassini, so I need to have that in there. Say OK. Now if this is the first time that you've set up option 66, or if you're making a change to it, you need to restart the DHCP server. So go up here to our server name, go to All Tasks, and restart. Well, once that finishes, now the DHCP server is all set to go. The next step is to configure the phone. Now I find it's real easy just to go to the phone and grab the MAC address. So I'm just going to copy it from here, and I'm going to log in to my 3CX. So I'm going to go ahead and go to an extension I have here. I can see that it's extension 220. It has a password, but for the automatic provisioning, I don't even need to know what this is. I'm going to go to the phone provisioning. I'm going to paste in that MAC address. Make sure I don't have any spaces there. And I'm going to select the phone. In this case, I have a Yealink T26. And I'm going to select OK. So very simple way of getting this configured. I'm going to go to my extension status over here. I'm going to go back over to the phone here. I'm going to go to the Upgrade tab, and I'm going to select Reboot. Now the phone's going to start a reboot process. It only takes a few moments, but it's going to do it twice because of the automatic provisioning. So the first time, it's going to reboot the phone and just come back up with whatever settings it had before. But now it knows to go get that file from our web server. So now it's going to wait a few moments, go grab that file, and then it's going to go through another reboot cycle with those settings. That's the only time it's going to reboot twice, is during the automatic provisioning. But it only takes a few moments. So just bear with it, and in just a moment the phone will reboot and it'll come back up. So pretty simple. So now that the phone's come up, we can see that it's got messages already and the phone's ready to go. It can make and receive phone calls. So pretty simple setup process. So next, let's take a what we need to do in order to set this phone up for manual provisioning. For manual provisioning, we'll need to configure the extension within the 3CX administrator, set up the account information in the phone with the SIP credentials and the voicemail access number, and then we'll set up the phone options for time zone, NTP servers, line keys, and BLF keys. So the first thing we'll need to do is log in to 3CX. We're going to go into our extension. Now this time we don't have anything in our provisioning tab. We just need to know the authentication. This is going to be extension 220 and the password is 54321. Now you can make this whatever you want. I recommend making it a fairly strong password just to keep people from being able to log in from the outside. So make this the MAC address or even an email address. It can be pretty much anything. Just make sure that that is a pretty strong password. Now once we have this, now we need to go to the phone and configure it. First thing is we'll go to the account tab, which is going to be blank. And this is going to be extension 220. Display name is Jim Luna. Register name is the extension, which is 220. Same with the username. The password, 54321. Our SIP server, 192.168.5.8. And then we need to scroll down here to the voicemail, and voicemail with 3CX is 999. And we'll just go ahead and confirm that. Now this will only take a moment to set up the phone. And now the phone's already up and running. Very quick to set up a Yealink phone. But there's a few other little things that we want to go through and double check just to make sure they're set up well. I'm going to go to the phone tab. And see, by default, the time zone is set to China. So I'm going to change that to Pacific time for myself here. And I'm going to use local NTP servers instead of the Chinese ones. Go down here. I like 12-hour time format. And we're going to save those settings. So now that's going to make sure that the phone is always going out over the internet to the ntp.org time servers. That'll make sure that we always have a really good time on here. Now if you don't want the phones to go out, or you don't have access for them to go out over the internet, then you'll need to have a local NTP server. Now this is usually like Microsoft Exchange or Domain Controller. It can use that as well. So make sure that you have a good NTP time source so the phones always have the right time. Going back here, just kind of go through some of these fields here. Features, there's really nothing in the features I set up, although you can add a custom logo to the screen, which is kind of cool. Go to the DSS key tab, and now I can set up all the keys here that are on the right hand side. Now this section is only going to apply to the T26 and T28. I can set these up as speed dial keys, BLF keys. So I'm just going to monitor a couple of the extensions. And I'll just go ahead and confirm that. So now we can see that these keys over here are lit up and monitoring those. I can also use that as a speed dial key, and it'll ring that particular extension. All right, let's go on to some more features here. I'm going to go back to the phone tab and to the DSS key. I'm going to go down here to the line key. Now the T26 has 3 lines. The T28 has 6 lines. Now I find it much easier to have multiple lines available for when I'm answering calls. They'll come in on separate lines. It's easier to put people on hold and pick them up, things like that. So I like to assign multiple lines to the phone. And you don't have to do this with multiple extensions or multiple accounts. I can just come over here to the line key. By default, they're set up as line 1, 2, and 3. Now if I just change all these to line 1, now all 3 lines all work. So that makes it a lot easier to use this phone, in my opinion. Now if you have the expansion module, you can go to the extended keys and set that up all from the web interface. So it's very easy to get the phone up and running. So depending on whether you want to do the automatic provisioning or whether you want to do manual provisioning, you now know how to set up the Yealink phones with 3CX. Thanks for watching.